Hello, I'm back, my fellow readers of Dark7777 with another fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notification, and leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story or any other future fanfiction you want me to read. Now, I'm going to preface this review because I actually, if you noticed in the channel, but not too long ago, as of recording this, I took down the video Duel to save Camp Everfree, which is what this review is going to be. The reason behind it is one of my Deathclaw, the person who wrote the story, actually pointed out that there was noise in the background, i.e. my mom yelling because that's all she really knows how to do, and it actually caused problems with the sound. I actually watched the video, and I saw the time when she was yelling, it was completely drowning out my voice, so I could barely, if at all, hear myself. So I decided to. I'm gonna re-record this and do everything, and then after that, I'm gonna do like a little update video just on the overall tone of the channel. Don't worry, it's not gonna be in this video. So let's get started. So, Duel to Save Camp Everfree is written by Deathclaw. It is the fourth of his My Little Pony YuGiOh crossovers. And here we go. The plot follows the events of Sonata's Big Duel. Sonata staying with Twilight. In Sonata's Big Duel, I mentioned Sonata staying with Sunset. It turned out I mistook Sunset for Twilight. My bad. And then Bob's your uncle. So they go to see Camp Everfree with Sunset kind of talking with Twilight about the cards, and Twilight saying, "Oh, I have all these ideas for genetic support," and Konami's like, "No, they don't support the lore." Which I have to admit, reading that a second time, I thought that was like a reference to Rank 10 YuGiOh because he made a joke about in his Allied Justice video, and all of a sudden he talked about Flamvel Magician. Like, wait, Flamvel? Oh, this card gains 400 for each if an Allied Justice is on the field. War! And he basically just said, most of the early dual terminal support is just basically trying to conform to the lore, and if it's not lore worthy, it's like, kick it to the curb. Yeah. And and then we also got a joke of Sunset being upset that Lavalval Chain is not off the ban list because let's be real. I think it'll be a long while before Lavalval Chain ever gets off the ban list because this thing. First of all, this thing's a walking. First off, its effect is not once per turn. 2, it's a foolish burial on legs. 3, you have that combined with 3 foolish burials, you pretty much guaranteed to win. Unless it gets Ash Blossom. That's potato. And so they get to Camp Everfree and they realize that Principal Cinch, the main villain of Friendship Games, and this guy named Well Done, beat up, I believe, Timber. I can't remember the name. Gloriosa and Timber? Sandal? His name is a pun on a wood. I'm just gonna call him Oak. I'll call the guy Oak. He's only mentioned once. Well, he's part of the story. It's just he's like knocked unconscious. I think he's like unconscious. So I think they only named him once. Timber. I'm just gonna call him Oak. I don't care what his name is because it's so inconsequential to the story. Same thing with Gloriosa. And so they challenge Sunset and Twilight to a tag duel, and Cinch is using equestrian magic to turn it into a shadow duel. So I like the idea of using equestrian magic to basically create the shadow games. I'm like, how would the author do that? And it's like, okay, simple, equestrian magic, corrupt it, and there we go. And it does help a lot. Sorry, it sets up some of the antagonists and Cinch and Adagio. It sets up the concept of shadow duels, so now the duels have a risk to them. So eventually, when the author gets the big story, we can launch off that. Well Done is a minor. He's more annoying than anything. I don't really care for him. Yes, I'm segueing into characters. Most of the main six, aside from Twilight and Sunshine, they don't get enough time outside of Fluttershy talking to animals, and then realize I can't talk to animals, and then them running to Android 16 for whatever reason. I'll talk more about that at the end. Principal Sage, her motives are believable. She's still upset over the fact that she got fired from a position as principal of Crystal Prep, and she wants to get revenge on Twilight for ruining that. You love Camp Everfree so much, I'm gonna ruin it. So it's a believable motive for a villain. Twilight, she has she's confident because of the fact she's using Gen X, and she's actually winning. She's actually the one dominating the duel on her and Sunshine. They're so Cinch and Well Done. I don't care if his name is not Well Done or not. I'm just calling him Well Done for convenience sake. They're so concerned over the fact that, well, technically, in a competitive sense, the Vols are actually a pretty decent deck, while Gen X are considered the worst archetype in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, it's bad. Gen X are bad. So they completely just go after Sunshine, and that actually shakes her up because of the fact they underestimate. I guess does that make sense? Underestimate. Well, they completely underestimate the fact that Twilight changed certain spells and traps, and actually to make them more at least useful, which is actually a neat little reference to the fact that as the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Progresses and evolves, older decks they get legacy support, and newer cards can actually help them out be more better. It's actually a reference to that, and I thought that was a really neat reference. Well Done uses trains because of course someone has to use the trains because he's trying. Because Well Done is secretly from Montegero. And is secretly living with the one whose shape was Snatch. And he talks like a drunken, I don't know, Montegarian accent. It's like, I don't give a fuck. Trains! Yeah! Especially now with the new the train link monster coming, rumored to come out. Which is a neat little detail. Cinch uses Monarchs. Let's see, Twilight uses Gen X, and Sunset uses the Wall. Sunset, she's going through sort of existential crisis because of the simple fact that, she doesn't first off, she doesn't understand why the cards are still acting this way, the way they are. Like, throughout the duel, Gen X ally Power Cell, I thought it was Crusher, and then the author actually corrected me. That was the other thing he did. He corrected me that it was Power Cell, not Crusher. Power Cell was kind of a coward, and he's like, I need to fight. And Gen X ally Duradark, he's just like the stoic guy. He's like, I'm an edgelord. I mean, you can actually kind of see him. You can easily picture him like playing like having like all this emo stuff on him, playing like a guitar. Like, I'm cool. I'm the coolest. Actually, his behavior kind of reminded me of Mizurium, the string gen from Yu-Gi-Oh! The Thousand Year Door Redux. How every time he summoned, he starts playing the most random songs. Mostly most of the song, The Devil Went to Georgia. Oh my god, that's still actually a pretty hilarious image of just like a little furball with like a kawaii singing, like random songs, just like, I'm gonna intimidate the hell out of you. Yeah. it's still a funny image. And Sunset is like upset because she can't make any leeway. She can barely summon anything, and their counters are specifically towards her. And they realize too late that they should have focused on Twilight. They should be focusing on Twilight because of the simple fact Gen X kicked their ass, which is actually, I don't know if it's an intentional reference or not. It's probably an unintentional reference to Rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh's War of the Worthless, where he said that the word, if we had a loser's bracket, then Gen X would be in last place. And Janex pretty much creamed everyone until like the true finale when they lost to Mech Lords, which I thought was pretty funny. It's like, and at the end of the tournament, it was like, oh thank God, Janex lost. I was about ready to leave my titty, leave my state, and like run around and hide in a little guard cell for Alec, for fear that Janex ally Axel will come after me. I'm coming after you. But she quickly goes out of it. One, she realizes, I'll talk about that when I get to my favorite part. It's actually my favorite part. Grammar, no grammar errors as far as I could see. Pacing, this is where I think it did better than Sonata's Big Duel because it was a better setup to the events of the duel, and the duel was much better paced. So, but that more benefits the fact it's a tag duel rather than anything else because it offers a nice mixture of them communicating and through the duel. So it feels like a true anime-esque duel, while Sonata and versus Sunset was basically mostly talking about the duels. So it's like, so it kind of left something out. I'm not saying it's bad. I just think there's stuff that Sonata the previous story did better. There's stuff that this story did better. Anyway, with the pacing and imagery, all the stuff were actually pretty interestingly described. First off, we have the level of, you could tell that the author kind of simplified the Janex descriptions because of the simple fact, well, we already seen the Janex, so of course, there's some way to refine them, and same thing with the Lavals. While we didn't get much description on the Monarchs. I wish that could at least, not the Monarchs, because as far as I know, we got one Monarch, which was I think Zaborg, and then we got the Vassals. Yeah, we got Zaborg, the Vassals, and the Wicked Monsters, and then we got Well Done and his train. So of course, honestly, I wished. The trains did get more descriptions because I can kind of deal with the Vassals and stuff like that because they don't really have a lot going for them. But I would have actually liked more, at least a little more done with the trains, just in terms of how to describe them. That's it. And finally a little plot line with them trying to find help and finding Android 16. No, I'll keep going. What I recommend. Sorry, I caught a little ahead of myself. Would I recommend this? This one is required reading for the series. Again, I still think the author is setting up this gigantic story of some kind of interdimensional conflict that causes the Equestria Girls and the ponies to kind of have to go on, kind of save the world. Who knows, the next story, the final mini story might actually answer that. I don't know. Favorite part. This was actually the part I was alluding to in character development. It was during the part of the duel when Sunset was having kind of sort of a mental breakdown. She was upset over the fact that she can't get ahead. They're working together, and they're constantly going after her, and she can't make any plays. She has no cards in her hand, as far as I remember from the story. And she was actually considering surrendering. In the YuGiOh anime, most players surrender by putting their hands on top of the deck, symbolizing they give up. And so she notices Duradark actually staring at her. Let me look up. Let me show you what Duradark looks like. Okay. Let me see. I know this is weird, but it's kind of important. Let me see. Duradark. There we go. This is what he looks like. I think I can. There we go. I'm guessing the light is kind of glazing off it, so making it kind of hard to see. I need the best. I need a better location to actually record. I'm so happy I'm moving out. I'm so happy that the application went in. So anyway, back to my favorite part. She finds that Duradark is staring at her, and he just simply goes, no, and just waggles his finger and shakes his head, and she looks at him, or I don't know, the robot. Robots don't have a gender. I'm just assuming it's a guy, because most of the Gen X are kind of designed after Mega Man bosses for some reason. Don't ask me why. It's just possibly a coincidence. And so she realized she can't give up because of the fact that she realizes that not only Twilight's depending on her, Twilight's own monsters are depending on her, and her friends are depending on her to make it, and she makes the play and continues the game and actually, manages to help herself, which kind of also plays into the end of the story where Prominence, who's part of the Laval archetype, actually becomes a dual spirit and says, "We are ready to serve you if you're willing to care about us." Basically, in this world, the reason the Gen X monsters are dual spirits is because of the simple fact, instead of conforming to the meta, because if you actually look at the meta of Yu-Gi-Oh! Right here in November 10th, 2018, you're pretty much stuck at 3 decks. That being Danger Dark World, Gokis, and Sky Strikers. These and coming up for 4th and 5th, I'd probably Thunder Dragons and not Light Swarms, Trick Stars. These are the 5 main big decks, especially since all of them abuse the ever-loving daylights out of Firewall Dragon. Everyone knows Firewall Dragon has plot armor, because of course he does. Credit to Mega Capital G for kind of actually being the one to actually make that joke, and I guess it's gonna become a meme. Firewall Dragon has plot armor because of reasons. So anyway, the Gen X, it turns out the Gen X were dual spirits, because of the simple fact, instead of conforming to meta, Twilight, like the Gen X monsters, they reminded her of happier times, and so she just simply wants to care about them and wants to, is willing to go to hell and high water to defend them, which is admirable to her, because I like the design of the Gen X monsters, most of them. I really don't like the 2 water Gen X. I really don't like their designs. They're kind of derpy. They're really kind of stupid. But overall, I like the designs of the Gen X, and the fact that she cared for them allows them to come alive. And so when Sunset, kind of looked at her deck at the end and said, "You know what? I'm not gonna change my deck at all. I'm just gonna change it, but because the monsters are a part of me, they're part of who I am." And so then, Promise is probably representing the whole Laval archetype. Although honestly, Handmaiden. Yeah, probably Laval Handmaiden would have been better. Or probably as a hilarious dig towards the ban list, Laval Chain should have shown up and said, we are here to help you. And it's like, but you're banned. I know. God dang, Chain's never gonna be unbanned. He's oh my god, I can just see it. I can see it now. Until when Yu-Gi-Oh! Completely ends permanently, that's probably the only time Chain will be unbanned. Because of the fact, who the hell cares about Yu-Gi-Oh! anymore? Oh my god, I'm dead serious. Laval Chain's never gonna be unbanned. That card, I think the day Laval Chain comes unbanned is the day Firewall Dragon gets banned. That would be a good negatory never, or at least until Reign's End, because, plot armor. So final thoughts. What would I change to the story? Simply just add a few more descriptors. I know I didn't mention that in the first, my first take. Truthfully, this is actually my 4th take. The first 2 times the file got corrupted. The first time was more my fault than anything else. I accidentally ended the recording early, and so I was at pacing, and then I accidentally unrecorded it and then I had to redo everything. And so the second time, my little brother actually came storming through the door, threw a candy at me, and actually unplugged my Snowball. Let me get this. My Snowball microphone. And apparently a weird thing happens is if you unplug this wire, the audio recording becomes corrupted and like severely lags, and so I had to throw that recording away. And of course, I already told you at the beginning what happened the third time. 4 times the charm, maybe. And so this happens. First off, just simply add more descriptors to the trains. Yeah, they're described pretty decently, but you know, the train monsters, especially Super Cannon Dora and Gustav Max, they are really, really complicated looking monsters. I mean, sure, you had very simplistic designs of the monarchs and the vassals, and of course the wickeds. We already know what the Lavals already kind of described. The Genex are pretty, despite the fact, you know, they sound complicated. But aside from something like, I believe, either Undyne and some of the Synchro monsters. So yeah, some of the Genex Synchro monsters like Hydrogenex and Geogenex, they kind of look really, really complicated. So of course those would kind of be hard, but you stick with the Genex allies, which are actually pretty smooth and sleek, and of course they'd be easier to, you know, describe. So of course the author more likely picked the simplest designs, you know, to at least save him some trouble to overcomplicate it. But you know, the least the author could do is at least throw a little more descriptors on what the train monsters look like. Plus the fact, you know, it's you know, the trains, everyone loves them. They're pretty much a fan favorite simply because of Rank 10, because Rank 10 actually loves the trains. I also don't like the joke with 16. Let me explain that, because I wanted to say this separately. During the events, when the rest of the main 6 are running along, they're trying to find what's causing the single gem. They run into one of her workers. He was worker 16. Of course, it was a reference to Android 16 of Team 4-Star. Then, you know, he's talking like this, and he likes the birds and everything. He's like, gets mad when, you know, he's decepted. And then at the end, he said, I have someone who can help me. He'll protect the fuck out of this park. I believe. Let me see if I can pull up the actual joke. Hold on. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let me see if I can find this. What's it? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, his name is Well-To-Do. Okay, so that's the guy's name. I thought it was Well Done, something like that. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So here's the sentence in particular. Speaking of Worker 16, he has spoken to the timber and her I just realized there is a grammar error. I can't believe I forgot about this. Because when I first read the story, I was like, wait, this is a grammar error. This is like a really, really derpy grammar error. Speaking of Worker 6, he had spoken to the Timber. Well, what is this? What is Timber? Okay, so it turns out his name's Timber, not Oak. Okay. So does this guy Timber think he's The Rock? He's not Dwayne Johnson. He's not Dwayne. He's not The Rock. And her sister about adding some security for the camp. Apparently, he knew a guy who always wanted to range the fuck out of a park. Wow. I'm a little on the fence about this joke. On one hand, it's actually genuinely funny. I'm gonna lay that. It's actually a pretty funny joke. But the one part I don't like about it is the fact it's a Team 4-Star reference, specifically a Dragon Ball Z abridge, which everyone knows. You know, there is a Yu-Gi-Oh abridge that actually predates Dragon Ball Z abridge by I think a year or two. It's just, you know, Dragon Ball Z is the one that popularized the abridge. But when people think of a bridge, they either think of Dragon Ball Z or Yu-Gi-Oh abridge. I guess you can kind of add Final Fantasy VII abridge because of the simple fact, you know, Team 4-Star does it, and everyone loves Barrett. He's hilarious. I love Barrett. Don't hog up. I do think that maybe you should have thrown in a reference to Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge rather than DBZ Bridge, because I think, you know, it's a Yu-Gi-Oh! Story. It would just simply make more sense in the grand scheme of things to do a Yu-Gi-Oh! reference, a Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge reference, like have Kimo show up and talk about his hair, or have Duke Leveling show up, and all of a sudden random music just starts showing up. Or just any number of characters. You could actually throw in any number of characters. You could have had Bandit Keith talking about America. I said, I'm going to protect this park in America. Because first, that would have been just as funny. I mean, again, the joke is actually pretty hilarious. It's just, I don't think throwing in a random Team 4-star Dragon Ball Z abridged was the right abridge to make the reference about. Not to mention Bandit Keith's hilarious. Oh, Yorick, I adore ye. I loathe thee. In America. I only speak American, because it's the only language I need to speak. In America. And then, before you say anything, I know he's actually from Canada, and he's like, no, I'm not really American. I'm Canadian. So yeah, that's my review on Duel to Save Camera. I seriously hope that 4 times the charm. And I will see you next time. This has been Dark777, and cut.